Good evening, everybody. Thank you for waiting. Now I think it's time that we start off. It gives us immense pleasure to have our speaker for today, Ms. Juveria Khatun, who is a 2020 computer science um, graduate. She is currently a software developer at Deloitte Application Studio, Deloitte, US, India. She is here with us today for a career talk where she will be talking about the transition from college to corporate and her story. She'll be answering all of our questions, and you can keep putting them in the chat while the talk is going on, and we'll make sure to answer them by the end of the session. So I'd like to welcome Ms. Juveria. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really looking forward to the talk.
Well, good evening, one and all. Thank you so much for that introduction. Really lovely to have all this audience at this point of time. And thank you, Girls Code, for the opportunity. Just can somebody give a hand raise saying that my screen is visible, my PPT, and I am visible, and my voice is audible?
Yeah, it's everything's
It
visible.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I loud enough?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm thankful for everybody who joined in and for the opportunity as I begin. Just before I begin, I'll tell you one thing, um, that I'm going to spill some juicy gossip towards the end. I'm going to share my interview experiences from the companies that actually visit our college, whether it be in campus or off campus, TCS, Deloitte, Wipro, Infosys, all that, EPAM, Value Labs, so many of them. I'll share my personal experiences in some of the very good rounds that I have attended. And but for that, you will have to wait till the end. So just hang on till I reach that point, and I won't extend this more than maybe 45 minutes to 50 minutes, and I'll make sure that you guys are not bored. Okay. So a disclaimer before I begin that whatever I'm sharing right now, guys, it was suitable for me. Like, it's relative to my life and my approach, the way I studied in the college, and it might not be suitable for you or relative to you. Like, everybody's life is different, and everybody have different approaches toward life. So I will say that you can learn from my experiences and you can adapt some of them, but I'm not sure if it is exactly the right approach for you guys as well, because everybody has different dreams. They have a different path to traverse on, and mine was different. And I will begin from the beginning. Sure. So my journey at MJ Set, I'll talk about certain things in between, like the things that nobody really talks about. And there were certain things in my college life and when I joined as an employee in the corporate that I thought that somebody should have told me or somebody should have guided me. And these things are not taught to you in books, readers, not even in like journals and stuff. These things you learn by experience, and maybe if you talk to some person in that profession who is actually experienced in that field. So there will be certain things that I'll tell you that nobody really talks about or addresses these issues, certain do's and don'ts when you are actually appearing for placements, or even when you are going for your engineering exams. It can basically, I'll just take you through my engineering journey to my corporate journey. And obviously everybody has been waiting for the placement talk, so I'll do that as well. I'm sure that you must have heard it from a lot of people. I'm not sure about the virtual situation, how it is in college, but when we were in our third and fourth year, a couple of guys had come to college from the corporate world to tell us how placement things goes on. So moving on, if you can see the slide, I call it my engineering experiment. After I completed my 4 years of engineering, I divided my 4 years into four quadrants. Like, this is something very personal to me, and I think that these 4 years shaped my life in a way that n- nothing else could actually shape it in this way. So uh, I'll tell you, when people look at me, they think that I have got good grades. Like I'm a studious person. I'm a 9 pointer. They look at how many placements I have got, and everybody on social media, not only me, right? Every senior of yours or any relative or cousin of yours, you go to them, they just talk about their good things in life. They never tell you the struggle that they faced. They never tell you how many times that they failed. They never talk about their backlogs. They never talk about how many placements they have failed. So I'll tell you what the reality behind the placements and engineering is. So my journey at MGS has started when I actually failed my JE mains. Yes. So I talk about these things very openly because I feel that it is very important for especially teenagers to know that it's okay to fail and it's okay to move on. Nobody ever told me that failing was okay when I was starting up, right? So I failed my JEE mains miserably. uh, Indian parents have this mentality that they keep telling you. When I was in my 10th grade, there is some sort of disturbance. Can you please mute yourself, the participant who have just joined in? Mahin Fatima, I guess. Thank you. So where was I? Yeah. So Indian parents have this mentality of when you are in schooling, they say that 10th board exams are very important. Once you get through it, this is it. You are going to join a nice college and life is going to be easy. Then comes your 10 plus 2 boards. That's the 12th board. People go through CBSE boards, ISC boards, and state boards. And then they tell you, once you get through these boards and you go through this entrance exams, MSET or BITS Pilani, you have those entrance exams, right, for big universities, and you have JEE mains for going for IITs and stuff. Once you get through those, life is amazing in engineering, or you take medicine or whatever it is. And then once you enter the university for the degree, or once you enter any kind of a degree, they tell you that once you complete your degree, you are an adult and you go for a job, and your life is going to be amazing from there. The simple truth is, life is never going to be easy. You're always going to struggle. It's in your hands how easy you want to make this struggle. Whether you want to take a job that is your passion, whether you want to struggle in a job that you don't like, uh, it's never going to be easy. Actually, the exams will end at some point of time when your education ends, but every single day is going to be learning. Every single day is going to be a new challenge, a new opportunity. It's about how you look at life. It's about how you comprehend that situation. So if somebody is telling you life is easy at this point, easy at that, it's never easy. Believe me, it never is, and it will never will be. So I failed my JEE means that is what I told, right? And never have I ever in my entire life I thought that I will fail an exam and I will take up engineering, that too at in MJSET. So it was never planned. Everything came as I went on, and I was the most disappointed person because I'm sure that everybody, at least the people who are in the call, if you are from Hyderabad, you have done your 10 plus 2 or intermediate in one of these colleges. Like I know 70% of the people join either Narayana, Chaitanyas, or those China, the combination of those two, or it might be MS. Um, there are certain Fiji, all of these big names, Page. So these people train you, and they make a schedule for you where you are studying for 12 hours a day so that you could crack that entrance exam. And uh, it's literally a torture over there. So I went through that for 2 years. First year I wasn't that focused in my intermediate. Second year I really got focused, spent almost 12 hours studying per day, and I had no parties, no functions, no relatives, no friends, no life outside. I was sleeping in books, getting up in books. Only aim I had in life was to crack that exam. And I was shattered to pieces when I couldn't crack it. I was the most studious kid in the house. Obviously, there was expectations from me. Even if people didn't put up expectations on me, I made those expectations for myself, saying that I can do this and I have been made for this, and this is the only life that I dreamt of. So it somehow started that way, and I had put so much pressure on myself and I was so much into studying. I remember there was a day when I slept in books. Like my bed used to be filled with those entrance exams, math, physics, chemistry books, M1, M2, all of that shit. And I got up in books and I used to go to college with the same books put in a bag. And it was very funny. When I think about it, it's very funny. And I remember one of the days my family was telling me I was telling formulas in my sleep, and I was talking. I was so much into it. So you can imagine how shattered I was when I couldn't clear the exam, when I was so focused into it, and I really wanted to. Basically, that's what I'm trying to tell. And I didn't had the energy to go for a long term back then. People usually do long term studying for the entrance exams after their IP is done, but I didn't had the energy, and I didn't wanted to repeat that process because I was mentally ruined by that point of time. I didn't share this story in college with anybody because not many people from MJ, when I made friends, I got to know that not many people had taken the entrance exams as seriously as I did. People were there from management. Some people did not write the entrance exams. None of them, not even MSET, like that's a basic exam to get into engineering. And there were certain people who just appeared for the sake of appearing and got it there. So when I looked at them when I was in engineering, I was like, I struggled so much for 2 years, and I landed up in a college with people who don't even care about these exams. And that made me even more discouraged. First year, if you see the first quadrant that I'm portraying through the slides, it was just failure for me. I was pretty much lost, disappointed in life. For 2 to 3 years, I had one aim in life for which I was working. By the time I was in engineering first year, I had zero aims, nothing in life that I was looking forward to. I had no friends by that point of time because I had lost contact with everybody from schooling. And Chaitanya, you don't really find a lot of friends. I don't know how it how that works, but I just didn't find friends because we were so immersed and submerged into studying, and in those classes back to back, 2 hours, 4 hours of studying, and then coming back home and then again back to books. So we didn't really have a social life, no social media platforms. So I was pretty much lost by the time I was in engineering first year. And looking at the atmosphere in college, I was even more lost because I never expected to be in that environment at that point of time. Somehow, first year, I got through first year. Coming towards the second quadrant, it was second year. I somehow adjusted to the atmosphere there, to the people there. I started coping a little bit from my disappointment. I was in a state of depression somehow, a little bit. And at some point of time in second year, I told myself that I will not look into past. Let's move on to present. Let's look into the present right now, because if I keep thinking about it, nothing is going to change. I'm already into engineering. I'm already into a college affiliated to OU at least, and belonging to an OC category. I couldn't even get to at least Usmania University. That was the least expectation from me. My rank was around 3,471. So I had to be in MSET, I'm talking about. I had to be under 800 to get CSE in OU. So none of the colleges accepted me. That was a big disappointment and failure again in my life. Somehow I entered MJSET and I'm in second year somehow. And there was this one day, clearly I remember, around in third year, like second year, I was more into student bodies, and I was telling myself that it's going to be fine. I'm going to move on at some point of time, and that memory of mine won't come back to me. And I was getting a little bit grateful about life because I knew that there might be somebody else. Like I wanted to be an NIT Warangal, I wanted to be an IITian. So there might be somebody out there who wants to study from MJSET as well, and who wants to be an engineer like me, and I'm in that position. I'm not being grateful to God for it. So I somehow tried to move on a little bit. Still, it took me like 2 years to get out of that mindset that I have failed, and I'm a disappointment right now. And it was in third year when there was a day I was sitting in classroom. It struck to me. I was just reading a book in the last bench that I'm not going to let this affect me anymore. I'm going to look forward to future. Fourth year there are going to be placements, and I'm going to make my life the best life. It's not going to affect me anymore how I failed or how disappointed I am of myself. I'm going to have new goals. I'm going to have new dreams, but I don't know what those goals were in third year. I started exploring myself, what I like the most. So, if you are a junior from college, you might know that any opportunity that came to me in college while I was in third year, anything at all, be a student body or any kind of R&D project. I was in orators, I was in SOH, I started doing a lot of CSI stuff. Any person who came to me in college, like, we have an opportunity, we have an opening, we are going to do this, I gave it a go. Like, I was like, I'm not going to make my mind overthink at this point of time. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to explore myself. I'm going to find out what I like the most. I'm going to seek what I want to do in life. So it changed me completely, and I never expected that. It was gone. All that disappointment and failure thing, that was stopping me from being myself, that was gone somehow. And one more very important thing, as I told, that I'll tell you things that nobody talks about. I didn't had friends in my 10 plus 2. That's what I told, right? I have a couple of friends, not like I don't talk to people, but I wasn't in touch with people from school. I still am not, because of that gap of 2 years. But the thing with making friends is that I'm going to give you a very nice advice, but people take me wrongly when I say this. Try to find people or friends or the company that you sit in who are like minded, who have the same goals and ideologies as you have. For example, if I want to go to masters by the end of 4 years, find someone who is dreaming of the same thing. You don't want to sit with a guy who wants to start a business at the end of 4 years. You don't want to sit up with a guy who is starting a startup or something. Um you are with the wrong person. Wrong in the sense, he's not like ethically wrong, but his dreams are different from yours, his ideologies are different from yours. He or she has chosen a different path than you have. So I learned this like 2.5 years later. I need to be with people who have the same thinking as me. I like poetry, I need to sit with a club that have poets in it. I want to explore this side of me. I want to explore my communication skills. I want to learn a new language. You'll have certain small goals at least. Maybe it might be as simple as doing exercise every day, or maybe going to gym, or maybe eating healthy food. If you are spending time with people who eat outside every day junk food, you are being with the wrong person. And again, when I say wrong person, it's not a person who is ethically wrong, but the people who do not have the same thinking as yours. So I think if somebody would have told me this earlier in my engineering, I would have made some right decisions, but I don't regret them. Being with people who actually think like you, who have the same goals like you, makes you accountable to them. If you are eating healthy food every single day and you cheat for a day, you will go and tell them that I cheated today. Then they will tell you that you have this dream, you have this goal of having a healthy and a fit body, and they'll remind you what it is. If you're being with the wrong people, I think you're just going away from your dreams. And if you're not going away from your dreams, the time or duration that you're taking to achieve those goals is going to be even more longer. So just try and find people. For example, I wanted to start programming more. Like if I'm learning Python programming in my third year, I sat with people who wanted to learn Python too, who are doing courses on Coursera or Udemy, or you who are getting certifications in that, so that we could study together. We could be accountable to each other, telling that I have completed this course, I have done this. Where can I go? Where can I find help? We could do a project together. So that's one advice I would tell. If anybody is in engineering or anywhere else in any other degree, find people with similar thinking. So fast forward to fourth year. Now I'm in my final year, and engineering has almost come to an end. The degree is so near, and there were still student bodies in college, and I was a lot more involved in student bodies by this point of time. But obviously there was pressure of placements, there was pressure of major project, there was pressure of getting the degree. Alhamdulillah, I had no backlogs by then, but people have pressure of backlogs as well to clear them by the end of fourth year. There's a lot of things going on when you are in final year. It's not just, you got in final year, you're getting over things. uh, you're going to get degree and it's going to be over. The pressure keeps on building until you reach your final year. And mind you, if you're doing an internship in your final year, it's going to be even more difficult. Multitasking with people, multitasking your major project, your internship. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to struggle in fourth year. So don't take the final year, you know they take it seriously. Don't take it for granted. Final year is going to change you in ways that you won't understand. For me, it was a complete transition. I broke through my shell of maybe it might be anxiety or nervousness or being less confident. I knew at this point of time my engineering is ending, and I didn't had any master's plans, nor not in those past 4 years I have ever planned for masters, because I didn't wanted to invest more money into masters. I wanted to earn myself first. I wanted to be an independent person. I knew that. And when this degree could fetch me a job, I said why not. So programming was on my mind, but it was not my passion. It never was, it never will be, I guess, because I have been into it for so many years. But it didn't really attract me or catch my attention until now. So my interests were completely different, but since I joined CSE and ITN, this kind of a stream, I knew I had to explore this as well. And the companies that come in the corporate, they take only the people who are good in their soft skills. When I talk about soft skills, you have to be well aware of your programming concepts, programming languages, different platforms. I can't even get started. I'll talk about the programming part and the technical skills towards the end. Let me move on. The reason why I shared my journey from my schooling or to my engineering is that everybody, each one of you have a different journey. Each one of you will struggle in different ways. I just want to tell you that it's going to be fine, guys. At the end of your education, everything's going to be fine. Everything is going to fall into place. So if you are struggling, or if you are depressed, if you don't have friends, if you're not performing well in your studies, if there is some sort of distraction, you're going to get through it and everything is going to be fine. And moreover, I'll just move on to the next slide, and or else I'll just keep talking about this. Okay, so okay, yeah, coming to okay, uh, placement talk. Fine. So I'll tell you the resources where you can study for free. One more thing I would like to mention over here is that, when my parents were doing their education, our Indian education system is so backward. Like what my parents studied, it's like 2.5 decades later I'm studying the same thing, maybe even more than that. So we cannot depend on an education. I'm sorry to say this, I don't think any lecturers or professors are there in this meeting, but it's so old, the Indian education system. The subjects that you are, information security, or web programming also had like any computer networks, all the subjects, those automata, languages in theory, logic and switching theory. I don't even remember most of the subject names, but even C programming, they teach you things that are long forgotten by people. And it's of no use for us when we enter into corporate. It's just for you to clear the exam. So if anybody is stressing about getting grades, I used to stress a lot about getting good grades, being a studious student, studying every night before the exam. So if you're stressing about it, let me tell you, most of the subjects are not going to be useful. You just have to get through them. Don't worry a lot about your education. Once you get through it, what you need to worry about is your skills. Okay, and you are going to build those skills only with experience and only by self learning. At least it for me, developing skills by self learning. So I'm going to tell you about these websites which teach you for free. Obviously most of them are known to you, but there are a lot of sites where you have to actually pay. But I think education today has become so dirt cheap. Everything like is available to you just on tap or a click. You can find anything and everything, from encyclopedias to ebooks to audiobooks. Anything, any subject, it's on the internet. What is needed is our motivation, our will to learn those subjects. you know Coursera, there's it's dirt cheap. The course is like $200 or $300, and I'm sure everybody could invest at least that much for getting a certification. So even if you're not understanding any of the engineering subjects, I think Tutorials Point was a better teacher than anybody in engineering for me. I learned most of my subjects there. And the W3 schools, I think W3 schools is like, the Bible for learning, at least the front end part, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all of that. Solo Learn is a very nice platform if anybody of you have not explored it yet. I used to learn Python or any such Ruby or any programming language while I was um, traveling to college. So my home is like around 12 kilometers from college, so I used to have ample time in traffic. So I used to just go through Solo Learn and finish sessions and chapters over there. It's a very nice platform. If you, even if you are traveling a lot, I guess you should explore the Solo Learn thing. And they have made it in a form of a game. Like we have this dopamine rush every time we earn a coin or a point. So that's a very nice thing. And HackerRank, HackerEarth, anybody right now in 324142, you are in your third year, you want to prepare for placements, you're not able to crack the technical part of the aptitude rounds or even the technical interviews, I think HackerRank is the best platform. For me, it worked wonders. Like, I could actually learn programming there, and it has a very nice user interface. You should really go through HackerRank, HackerEarth. These are of the same type. If you don't like one, you can skip to other and check out how it is for you. But lead code, yeah, lead code is also a very nice place. Code Chef, Udemy, Coursera, amazing for any sort of course. Even if you want to learn music or photography, not only coding and programming, I think it's the best place. Just go and explore these places. If you want, you can, I don't, these are very common things, and I am sure that all students might know. There are certain sites like Plural Site, and a couple of them like I know of, but the courses are very expensive over there. So I think as a student, you shouldn't really be spending on courses thousands of bucks when it is available to you for free on YouTube or any of these websites. Please access these resources at least until you are a student. Once you become an employee and there is requirements from the company, they will themselves provide you with courses and trainings. So don't spend thousands of bucks. Already you're spending thousands of rupees in your engineering, so I don't think it's worth it. uh, Moving on. Okay, so before I get to this books, do I yeah, so before I get to these books, I will tell you my placement situation, how it went on. Around June or July, I was just completed the 3-2. We are entering into 4-1. That is when EPAM came in. That was the very first company that we were exposed to. We had written some Microsoft internship or something before that, but that was our very first virtual experience with any company for who had come for a placement to our college. So we just had to write an aptitude exam, I guess, and I'll tell you, from there we started around June and it went on till next January or something, when everybody was serious about placements. From there until Septemberish or something, I failed 7 companies, not even kidding. No, but I don't know why don't people talk about failing. Like, it's such a common thing. Everybody fails. Not everybody is going to succeed in every single thing that you're doing. And guys, since uh, I'm just talking and talking, I want you guys to be a little bit interactive. I just don't want this to be a one-way communication. Any sort of doubt regarding anything, backlogs, failures, placements, any engineering subject, anything to do with life, just comment down below. I'm sure Rida or somebody from the organizers will let me know if there are some interesting questions, and I would love to answer them towards the end. So I'll tell you my interview experiences now. If anybody of you haven't joined, who wants to hear about interview experiences, personal questions that are asked in interviews and stuff like that, ask your friends to join in right now. This is the time. I'm starting on. So aptitude round. As I told, I failed 7 companies before I got my first placement in TCS. So first it was very disappointing, and somehow I got to that phase of first year where I felt like a failure when I failed my JEE Mains. So it was starting again. I felt like past was repeating, and I'm going to fail all of these placements, and I'm going to fail that brunt of failure again. I didn't want it to go through that again. But I was confident enough that I would do something out of my life, and I won't be failing this time. But when you fail so many times, you are broken so many times, and there is nobody telling you it's okay to fail. And at some point of time, you will pass if you keep working. Not a person on the planet will tell you. You just go and talk to somebody. They won't. They will just criticize you for you didn't prepare enough. You were more involved into student bodies. You are not focusing. You don't have the motivation. You are a studious bookworm. You don't have the skills required to get into corporate. You will hear all sorts of things, especially the people who are in third year or fourth year in this seminar. I'm telling you, it's okay to fail. Nothing should bother you. You will fail 100 times, you will pass that one, not one time. Okay, and it's going to be great. And each and every failure of yours is worth it, believe me. The more number of times you fail, the more hunger you will develop to succeed that one time in life. And it's going to be that feeling, that dopamine rush you get when you get your first offer letter. I can't even explain it, guys. It's going to be worth it. Just wait and just keep working towards it. Aptitude. 80% of the people who appear for the company fail in the first round itself. I mean, they are eliminated in the aptitude round. Guys, we have been studying for past what 15, 16 years, and maths was a subject that was always there for us. Like, you have you always are being taught mathematics basics, board maths, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. Okay, there are formulas, there is time, speed, distance, and all of that. You study a lot of mathematics. You have, if you are focused in your M1, M2, M3, M4 during the engineering, I'm sure you are good at mathematics since you are in engineering. Even if you are not, the book that you see towards the left, Quantitative Aptitude by Dr. R.S. Agarwal, I have mentioned this 100 times to any junior who had come to me. Don't go to face prep, don't go to those online websites. I know they are good, okay, they provide a lot of examples and all of that stuff. Like, there is formulas, there is explanations. This is one stop shop, okay. And I had this from my brother, this book, and it was like the it was from 4 years back, so it was some 42nd edition. It was basically an old version of the book. I didn't even have the updated version of the book. I just used this book. I could clear 90% of the aptitudes that I had written during my placements, almost all of them. And I think this is a really nice book. There all the topics are covered, and you don't have to do each and every sum. Obviously, it's a big book from 600, 700 pages. Do examples. I'm telling you, do examples, learn the formulas well. And if you go and Google about the company, they'll tell you what topics to cover for the aptitude. Go for only those topics. You don't even have to do all the 20, 25 topics that are there in the book. um, do examples. That is the minimum needed of you. You can go to the exercises later. So quantitative aptitude, one stop shop, Dr. RS Agarwal. And still, if you want to go to other places, well and good, but make sure that you clear the aptitude round. There are do's and don'ts, I told you, right? There are a lot of people I have seen, even after I got into Deloitte, and a lot of people I have met. They focus so much on their technical skills, right? Cracking the coding interview, like I'll talk about it later. The technical programming rounds, they are doing languages and languages, Java, JavaScript, C Sharp, Swift, all of these languages and all of these platforms. They are getting eliminated in the very first round. What is the need of doing, like, you have been studying for 4 years and you cannot clear the first round? How will you even reach the round that you're studying for when you cannot clear the aptitude? And there is a time limit that is running when you're doing this aptitude things. People are copying in that time limit. It was very funny to me. But when you have got just 45 minutes for doing those 40 questions or whatever, there is English comprehension, that is logical reasoning, there will be two or more technical programs that you have to clear or test cases for. Between all of this, people found time to actually bother and look into other people's screen or ask them what is the answer for that. What There will be negative marking as well. So I don't know. I found it very funny. I think it is very less valued. Aptitude has a very less face value in engineering students, or as a matter of fact, any student who's going for placements. They think that they can clear it off, but it's not as easy. If you have been through any placements, you know that 70 to 80% minimum, that is the number of people who get eliminated in the first round itself. So if, no matter how advanced they are with their technical skills, how many projects they have developed, how many internships they have done, it becomes zero if you cannot clear the first round. So please focus on aptitude as well. Study a little bit every day, and it's not that difficult. If you are good at mathematics, even if you're not, if you practice, it's just formulas. I know you can do it. And this, why do I stress about this book is that I have read Quora answers and stuff. I was doing a little bit research, and it is my personal experience in Infosys. I had solved a few problems from this book. They just changed the numbers. Like, there is a problem statement, they change the numbers. If there are like 100 cups and 5 milk bottles, they'll change just 105. We have the same question. So you will be very lucky if you actually get that sort of stuff, and you can actually remember the answers if they are giving the same things. And there will be tips and tricks also to get through it in the book. So that's one book. GD, group discussions. I'm sure that you have had group discussions in your first year. This is the most funniest thing I've ever attended in MJ. I'll share my group discussion experience with you when I attended for Value Labs. Deloitte was also one hell of it, but I remember in Value Labs what we went through. Uh, 70% people eliminated in the first round of aptitude itself. Now we were feeling very lucky. We made through the first round. We are into our second round, group discussion. We are sitting in the CIC lab or something, and Farooq sir have started making a groups of 8 to 10. I was pretty chilled out because being in CSI, and being in all of this, I have this habit of speaking a lot. So even if I have no knowledge about the topic, I tried speaking about it. So I thought ki somehow I'll clear it. So I was not that underconfident, but the people, the way they behave in group discussions, guys, English is not a language to be valued. Okay, it's just a universal form of communication that everybody needs to know. And I'm serious when I tell you this. It's not a measure of your intelligence. It does not when you speak well and you have a British heavy American accent, that is also not needed. You just have to have a good vocabulary, and you should be communicable, right? You don't have to use a Hindi accent or a Telugu accent and put Telugu words when you're speaking to your interviewer. And people make a mess out of it. You have been studying maths for aptitude, English for group discussions from your first grade, right? I don't think anybody is from Hindi medium or Telugu medium. Even if you are, English has been a part of your life, and you have been watching at least movies or listening to English songs. People can't speak a proper line with no grammatical mistakes in it. It's so bad. At least in our college that I have noticed, most of the people are so reluctant, so hesitant. I went into the group discussion round. There are 10 people in my group. We are sitting in a lab. There was obviously one orchestrator, and he's an HR. So he was a Value Labs. I don't know if he was an HR. There was this person, okay? So 10 people. There were only 2 girls, including me. So 8 other boys. I was a little apprehensive, not because I'll tell you why I was apprehensive. I had this stereotypical notion in my mind that I'm not loud enough. Usually male voice is a lot louder, and maybe they are going to suppress my voice. That was a notion in my mind, and you have this random thoughts going through because it's like you're sitting in an exam hall now. Paper is going to be given to you, some sort of a situation, and you're going to be declared as a pass or fail. So obviously everybody is nervous. We are sitting in a semicircle. There's that orchestrator HR from the Value Labs. He's sitting and he told us, I'm going to give you 3 topics. The top, okay, I'm going to give you 3 topics, select a topic from it, and then we'll start it. Like, fine. He gave us topics. The topics are not even like, it's not Greek and Latin. It's not about speaking about Mohenjo-daro or, Silicon Valley. It's very simple. Usually for us, mostly it was artificial intelligence or Bitcoins. For Value Labs, it was, if you remember, there were floods in Uttarakhand during 2017 or something. So he said how technology would help the victims of the flood. So basically how technology would help the victims of the flood. uh, I think, yeah, that was the topic or something. So usually in GDs they give you 5 minutes before the thing starts, so that we can jot down the points that you want to discuss during the group discussion. So we usually go with a paper or a book and a pen pencil. Everybody is writing down. The girl beside me, I'm the only girl. There is another girl. She wrote down one full A4 size paper. And I got so nervous. I had written just 5 points, dotted down 5 points, and the other people, I don't know, I couldn't see, although we were sitting close together, and we started the discussion. So I was the first one to begin because everybody had a blank face somehow. So I was speaking. I was speaking and speaking. I talked for like 5 minutes. I told everything that I could, and I realized that I'm going to exhaust my points. Before I exhaust them, let me just pass on to somebody because nobody is interrupting me. Like, they're not coming out with. So I said, I'm open to agreement and disagreement from the participants of the group discussion. So I ended up with a line. I'm not telling the exact words, but I said something so that other people could speak up and agree or disagree upon. So there was this 15 to 20 seconds of awkward silence after that. And in that point, I felt an anxious rush. Okay, I thought that I had taken up some other topic and started speaking on it. It wasn't the topic that the orchestrator had given us for the group discussion. And I was looking at everybody's faces, and he looked at me, and 20 seconds nobody spoke up. And then some other guy spoke up, and he was talking about some floods, same thing, so drones and something. So I was just satisfied at that point of time that I hadn't gone wrong. And I didn't know why people didn't speak. After one more minute, I realized Nobody in that room could speak a line properly. Either they were nervous, they were anxious, they were shy, they were embarrassed. I don't know what those emotions or feelings were, but people couldn't speak a line. It's not about being technical, it's more about being able to communicate. What the company sees when you're in group discussion, they see that whether you are able to talk to people. That's the only thing. That's the bottom line. You should be able to talk to somebody when you are in a group discussion. And by talk, I mean being able to speak in English, because most 99% of the corporate world, they speak in English. And again, as I repeat, English is not the measure of intelligence in the companies as well. It's the universal mode of communication. By that I mean, when I'm working in a company right now, in my team I have two people from Ukraine, I have two people from Tamil Nadu, Chennai, and I have three people from US, and the rest of us are Indians. So now when we are talking about a problem statement, when we are giving solutions, when we are programming, developing, and user stories are given to us, there should be a mode of communication among us, right? So it is it's English. Obviously, to tell somebody I have a bug or I have a problem, you should be able to speak. Now you speaking in Hindi, they speaking in Tamil, it won't help out. That's the only main reason of group discussions. They see your maybe leadership qualities, and they see if you are a sound and a sane person who can speak or talk properly. That's the bottom line of it, and nothing more. It's not to embarrass you or make you shy. So looking at all of that, the person from the HR from Value Labs, what he did was, since nobody is speaking, I don't want to mark you based on this. I understand whatever the situation is right now, but I'll give 1 minute to everybody, and we'll start from the left side. Everybody is going to speak one after another. I said, well and good. Now everybody has this focus of attention. Still, hardly any people could speak, and the girl who had written a A4 size paper, paragraph, or whatever it was, she didn't speak a word in the entire group discussion of 25 to 30 minutes. And I was just sitting by her side, like it was just not even a meter away. And I said, you could just read from it. It's okay to be shy. It's okay. I didn't say it out loud, but I said that since you have got a chance, everybody has finished speaking. You can just read. You can look at the paper. You have written it on your own. If you don't want to speak, and oh my God, there was two people in that round who were looking at the HR and discussing with their group. Like, when it's a group discussion, guys, you're discussing with the group. You need to address the group. You need to address the participants of the group. You don't look at the HR. You're not reciting a poem or a poet. There are some basic skills and ethics. I think you get these skills only when you try communicating in college. People usually use their mother tongue in college. I think that's where we go wrong, and that's where we have lost our vocabulary and stuff. It was hilarious to me. I'm sorry, but I was just sitting there and I was thinking, I remember during the Value Labs, I am just one round away from that 4.5 lakhs package. Okay, the package was 4.5 and it was an incremental package. 16 years of education, 16 years of struggle to get to this point, and I'm just one round away. And these people around me, they have an opportunity. It's waiting right there. Just one more round. You get through this round, you get that package, you get that job. And these people, out of their whatever emotion, embarrassment, shyness, nervousness, they didn't wanted to speak. And I couldn't control my laughter. I don't know. I just had this thinking in my mind. And it was hilarious to me how that the people didn't speak even after clearing their aptitude. They struggled so much to get there, but they chose not to speak. And I don't think it should be hilarious. I think I feel pity for them, that but that particular situation for them was not suitable to get to the next round. And to the girls who are listening, I'm not sure how many girls are there in these 47 participants. I'll tell you one thing: no matter what form of dress you're wearing, be it a veil, be it a hijab, be it a scarf, any fabric on your body shouldn't make you shy or nervous from getting from adding value to your career, or from getting your goals or achieving your dreams. Like, how could a dress or an appearance stop you from getting what you want in life? It's over here in your brain. It shouldn't stop you, guys. That girl, I guess I remember, she was wearing hijab and everything. She didn't even say good morning to the group. She didn't speak a line, and I choked at that point. I wanted her to speak somehow. I didn't feel empathy for her, but I wanted her to speak, since she reached at that point, and she was just one round away from getting that job, from getting that offer letter. Just imagine in your head getting an offer letter that day. And I felt very bad for most of the people. I was, in my mind, a lot of things were going on, but I wanted people to speak, but none of them speak just for the fear of speaking English. If somebody would have told me speak Spanish or something, I would have learned and spoken over there, because I struggled 16 years to get this opportunity over here right now. And if a language barrier is stopping me from getting that, I don't think, I don't even see that as a barrier. I would do anything for it. Obviously, you have been studying for so many years for this job. Okay, moving on. I think that was a lot for group discussion. Technical rounds. If you see, there is a book on the screen, the middle one, Cracking the Coding Interview. I think this book I got it from Moiser. If you are a good studious person and you get the top 3 rank in, uh, you know, engineering semesters or something, first year second year, they give you a small amount of money, around 2000 or 3000 bucks. So half of the amount of money is given as book and half of the amount is cash. So I had my name in that, and he asked if he wanted any of the books. So I googled it back then. I didn't know how important this book was to me. I was just googling about nice books for coding. So this book popped up and it had good reviews. It's a nice book. I won't praise it a lot because I haven't really gone in depth of it. But if you're searching for a book, not internet or ebook or something, obviously on internet there are a lot of platforms and stuff like that for you to learn coding. But there is searching, sorting, data structures, linked list, trees. A lot of concepts are covered in this book, and it's not language specific as well. You should put hands on this book and check it out. It's a nice one. Last one, the Your Right First Job. I read it recently. It is by Murali Dharan. So this book has a lot of scope, guys, for anybody who's interested in knowing what should be my first job, product based, service based, or where can I find jobs. It's very basic. I was never into like self-help books, but I started reading recently and got my hands on this one. It's a nice one. You can even have an ebook. Okay, I'll answer these questions towards the end if it is fine with you guys. So, right first job, if you are into reading books, I'll recommend this one. But the first two are, first one is like very important from the aptitude point of view. If you want a wholesome book for coding, I think this is a very nice book. Moving on. Okay, I think, okay. So, one more thing, as I told you, now that I am into a company, people look up to me and ask me questions, especially juniors, like how did you crack this interview, how did you crack that interview, how was the technical round, how where do I learn data structures and stuff like that. For everybody the path is different, guys. It's not about the path that I followed should suit you as well. Even the books that I'm recommending, maybe you will find them the worst books ever. You might not, those might not be your favorite, because the way you think is different, the way I think is different. My ideas are unique, your ideas are unique. Even when you program like a Fibonacci series, my logic is different, your logic is different, the way we think is completely different. That is how the human brain is formed, right? So when I tell point A to point B, suppose all of us are point A and your target is point B. Now all of us are looking for a job opportunity at the end of our final year, or a master's opportunity, or a GRE score, or IELTS, TOEFL, whatever exams that you want to write, entrance exams to get to the master's point. For some people, it's a direct black line that you see, point A to point B. They reach it effortlessly, and they don't miss the target. And for other people, it's the white line with ups and downs. Now the people who are traveling on the white line, they look at the people who are in the black line, and they think that it's so easy for them. Why is it not easy for me? Why am I struggling so much? Why are there so many roadblockers for me? Why can't I reach there the way they reached? It's different for everybody. You need to understand, you need to be patient, you need to work hard. No matter how many times you fail, I'm repeating this, you will fail 100 placement exams, it's okay, but you will pass in that one, not one placement exams, and that will be meant for you, and God has written that for you. So keep working. I have been talking to juniors, especially the people who are in fourth year right now. They said that it's difficult, I don't think I can make I two people I talked to, like, I don't think I'm going to get placed or something, I want to give up, I don't think I'll be writing any more exams. Guys, from my personal experience, as I'm telling again and again, I wrote down, I made a note or a book, it was something, whenever I failed a placement, I wrote down why did I fail. I noted down the date, whether it was any company, and I noted down the date, the company name, the rounds that I cleared, the round that I got eliminated, and why did I get eliminated. It might be you are having a bad day, maybe you are not that focused into the exam, or it might be because your technical programming is weak, your aptitude is weak. So unless and until you experience it, how are you going to know that you are weak at it? There were certain people, okay, now I'll address something. uh, I'm not targeting anybody when I'm telling all of this. I have seen people do this. Okay, in college when I was in final year and we were going through placements, there were some friends of mine who said, "ये तो product based है. I want to sit for service based." Honestly speaking, I didn't know much difference between service based and product based. The only difference I'll tell you is service based companies. The client comes to them with a requirement, and they say that I want this features in my application. Can you build this for me? The developers, there is a design team, developing team, testing team, QA assurance, there's a lot, a big team. Basically they develop the application, present it to the client. They see they tell for some kind of update, alterations and stuff like that, and you give the product to the client. Product based companies, they develop the entire product. Eco, Alexa, imagine some kind of an electronic product or that has some software capability in it. They product the entire product, and then they market it basically in the market. I mean, they publicize it in the market for people to buy. The clients basically buy the product by looking at their sales and advertisement. That's the difference between a product based and service based. At least that was my understanding. So if you go and read about it, there will be a lot between the culture and workspaces and stuff like that. But people told that I want to be in product based, not in a service based. And I told, there is a lot of times when you're talking to yourself like, you have never worked in any of these companies, why are you judging them? Why are you having this preformed opinions? This is a consultancy, this is product based, this is service based, this is not an MNC, this has a lesser package, this has a greater package. I'll come to packages as well. See, when you're a fresher with no experience at all, having these preformed opinions based upon other people's reviews. Obviously you're taking this review from the internet, from maybe a relative or a family member who's already working in a firm. Unless and until you experience it, you will not know what it is like. Okay, when you go and experience it in a company, you will say that okay, this is not suitable for the person that I am. I want to explore some other part of the firm or explore some other type of service. So I think it is very wrong to have these prejudices in mind. Whether it be any opportunity, even if it's a 1 lakh package or it's a 10 lakh package, it doesn't matter. Anything that is coming to you right now, a lot of people are struggling for that opportunity as well. Just go for it, write those exams. It's fine for you to write an exam for 1 lakh package if you even don't want to take up the job in it. At the end of the day, what is going to go wrong? You will going to have options, maybe check boxes or radio buttons from what you want to choose. I don't like this company, these are the pros, these are the cons, I'll go for this one. Don't miss an opportunity. You will fail, maybe even if you're not prepared. If you have zero preparation for the company, tomorrow is the company coming, go for it. मतलब ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा? Either it's a boolean value, you will fail or you will pass. But just don't give up, because these opportunities won't come to you so easily once you pass out. You will have to go for walk-ins, and the rounds are even more difficult. Okay, the rounds are even more difficult. Is somebody unmuted? Okay. Where was I? The rounds are difficult because you're competing on a national, not national level, but people from outside college. Basically, when a company comes to your college, you're competing with your peers, the people, the level of understanding and skills these people have. But when you're going outside college, you don't know the type of competitors you have. They People are coming from all over the places. Hyderabad is an IT hub. We have a lot of companies over here. People come from all over India to our place. When you actually work into the corporate, you will know that people are coming from Delhi, Bangalore, Assam, Jammu, Kashmir. I have done an internship with 50 people, and we have like an all India culture in it. And I was the only person from Hyderabad. So you're going to have this mixed culture, you're going to have this mixed people from all the states. So try your best to get a placement in college itself. Even if you don't get it, don't be disappointed, keep working, because the path from point A to point B is different for everybody. And you don't have to say, just be grateful. Don't say that why me, why do I have to go through all these struggles to get a job. It's different for everybody, as I keep telling. Maybe somebody got it in the first 2 months of fourth year, somebody got it in the first 6 months. So for somebody, the final year ended, they got the degree, still they don't have a job, but the job that is waiting them is much better than what these people got right now. So don't be disappointed, just keep working. I'm sure you're going to get the best job. I'll just move on. And one last book recommendation from my side. I heard this like audiobook recently. I'm not really into audiobooks, but I think this changed the way that I think. If you are not into books, it's absolutely fine. A lot of people in engineering, at least I have seen, that don't read books. Obviously now, though, we don't even find time to read books. At least that time I had a little bit of time. But Visual Festation by Peter Adams, it's going to change the way you think. I'm not even kidding. I heard this audiobook recently, and this person tells you how you can manifest the life that you want. This person will tell you how to have goals and dreams, how to note down those goals and dreams, how to look up to them every single day, and the universe is going to force these dreams into you. Like, the book is all about you achieving your dreams only by believing that you can do these things and believing that you already have achieved those dreams. I really, really, really recommend anybody listening to me right now, go listen to this book. I think it's available on YouTube as well, free. Visual Festation by Peter Adams. It's really nice book. Everybody should read it. At least if you have any dream, even if it is very small, losing weight, eating healthy food, exercising every day, it's not a like professional dream. Uh, it's fine. It might be like a minute size thing as well, but this book is going to tell you how to achieve that. And you will be shocked by the end of the book that why didn't anybody tell me all of this. I could be doing it for so long right now. So that's it from my guys. I think I didn't really write down anything to talk to you guys, but it was my personal opinion, I guess, and my personal perspective. Again, as I end my presentation, I'd like to remind you that whatever I have discussed was not targeting any sort of people. I have just seen these things happen around me, and it was my personal opinion, and it was from my point of view and perspective, not to hurt anybody. It's just the way I feel, and it might be not be appropriate or relevant to you. So just hang on there. I know you are going to do great in life, no matter what point you are, how much you are struggling. If you are depressed, if you are anxious, it's going to be fine, and you are going to find the best job. Just hang on. Any questions from any of the participant is welcome. I'm just going to go through the chat window. Thank you so much. You are most welcome. Fusion, Menas, it was an amazing talk. Okay. Okay, what are your views on internship during 2-4 and 3-4? Okay, second year and third year. Fine. So I did my internship when eighth semester. Yeah. So I did my internship last year. At this point of time, I started my internship last year. I was in my 4-2. So 4-2 was all about internship with a major project in college. So we had already left. Most of the people have left the college. I think looking at the Indian education system, how many subjects do we have? Almost every semester we'll have 6 subjects, 6 labs or 4 labs. There is a lot of pressure on you already. Fine. And not attending the college, for me at least, I was a studious kid. I don't think those notes made sense to me now, make sense to me now. But be a part of college. Don't like, if you have a work from home internship or a few hours that you have to spend doing that internship, well and good, amazing opportunity. But if you're going to an office workplace, spending 6 to 8 hours there, I think then you're going to deviate from your studies. First get your degree, then enter the corporate. It's You are going to enter the corporate and spend your entire life there. So that is going to happen some point of time. Don't be that speedy to get there. It's fine. Don't be in a hurry. I think it's good if you can multitask. If your parents are happy with you, the way you are spending time in internship and in college, internships are good. We have done data science and all of that on internshala. And you if you can multitask and it's work from home, spending only a couple of hours, that's fine. But if you have to spend like 6 to 8 hours, I don't think you need to put that pressure on you. Just enjoy your student life, guys, while you are in college. These days will never come back, and everybody used to tell me, and I'm sure even I'll tell you that those 4 years of engineering, being a student, obviously you have those pressure of exams, backlogs and stuff, but this time will not come back. uh, just focus on your studies and friends for now. Maybe enjoy in the student bodies, have fun a little bit, and prepare for placements. Internship concepts will, I think fourth year it's fine because you don't have a lot of subjects now and you don't have that much pressure. Okay. How was your interview experience at Deloitte? I didn't share my Deloitte interview experience. I don't think I want to talk about the GD. That was very fun. It was funny to me because even I couldn't speak a line. They got something from another planet for the GD. It was a comprehension passage. Aptitude, I don't remember much. All the companies have similar sort of aptitude. There were technical questions, you have to clear the test cases. So it's almost same. You can Google about aptitude. GD round, they come up with an A4 size paper. It's like a comprehension. So you have there was a story that I couldn't understand a word. It was in English that we couldn't understand. And there were questions behind it, and about 6 or 7 questions. The HR from the Deloitte used to like I don't think he or she would ask a question. We have to discuss the questions among ourselves, like we had to answer based upon what the comprehension passage was given. Deloitte technical round, I was the first one to get into technical round. I remember this properly. For me, I think from my technical round experiences, I can tell you that guys, we are freshers, right? We are just out of college, zero corporate experience, zero experience of the IT world, how things work, how projects are developed. We don't even know how humongous or ginormous the projects are over there, what languages to study, what we go. At least I was not a pro programmer. I knew what was taught in college a little bit outside that. So I wasn't into developing projects. I did a little bit, not to the extent that people in my class, I know there were freelancers who were developing projects for clients already, and the people go like, you know, above and beyond doing programming. So I was not that kid, obviously. But for me, I made sure that concepts were clear. Object oriented programming, Java was my go for language, and C Sharp, I knew a little bit of that, Python. And in Deloitte interview, as a matter of fact, all of these people will tell you that go for one language, make it very strong for yourself, so that any problem statement given to you, you are able to write a logic for it. Even I'll say that, but I will say don't stick to one language. Like if you are comfortable doing your data structures in C++, fine, go with C++. If you are comfortable, you're writing your basic logics, searching, sorting, and trees in Java, fine, go with Java. If you're comfortable with the Python packages, go with Python. So it depends actually on the problem statement given to you as well. For Deloitte, I remember things that they asked me. There was this very interesting question. People asked me, there were 2 or 3 people to show object oriented programming in the lab I was sitting in. So I had to explain each and every concept. They started like building the questions very easily, and that was the transition part, I guess. They get to the harder questions in the end, so they just see that how capable are you. So there was this one answer that I gave, I think that somehow impressed them, or maybe it built confidence in me as well, when they said that they wanted to see object oriented programming around them. Obviously there are a lot of concepts, classes, objects, polymorphism, all of that. So uh, I don't remember the question exactly, but inheritance was the concept that I was explaining. I had to explain the concept, write a small logic for it. So he asked me to show it in the room. And since it's a lab, there were systems open. The operating system Windows logo was being shown on the screen. It was Windows X. So I said that, there have been versions of Windows, there have been versions of these platform where there was an upgrade every single time. So we had Windows 7, 8, X. So every time there is an uh, increment in the version, there is increment in the software, and it adds on to its parent. That is how inheritance works. So I was giving very creative answers, looking around in the room with this object. So they were kind of impressed during that. And then they came up with those complex queries and all. It is a very nice experience actually. I remember at least certain things from each of my interview. I can discuss more of these interviews if I get a chance, but I think I'm running out of time already. It's been 1 hour up. um Rida, anybody from the organizers, can you pick up some questions? There are a lot of questions. I don't think if there are a mix, if some question is, if everybody is asking again and again, I think I'll be able to answer that for you guys.
Yeah, sure. So there are questions asking about data structures and algorithms as to the importance of those topics over projects and incorporating them into projects and how to improve that.
Okay. I think data structures, 50% of the people, it's a weak point. If you have had a good faculty, I failed Value Labs because of my data structures weakness. Okay, so I don't think I'm the best person to give you advice, but you cannot run away from it, guys. And you are going to use it when you enter the corporate, not as that much, but you are going to use it at some point of time, and you will be like, oh my god, I'm applying this concept. At least I have those flashbacks when I'm working. I am doing this. I'm using this concept, and I had learned it way back. So for us the faculty was really good, but the only problem that I faced when I was failing with my data structures is we were taught data structures in second year. When was the interviews taken? Around 4142. So there was a nice gap, and I'm not the person who's going to go back and practice all of that. So whatever little bit memory I had not refreshed it by the time these companies came in, especially in data structures. I was more focused in basic programming and stuff like that, and I was, all of us, this one thing I'll mention, are overwhelmed with subjects. We think that you know people tell you that you have to study all 4 years worth of subjects. It's not true. You have to pick up the best subjects that you know: DBMS, data structures, uh, uh, yeah, queries and data structures, and then Java, C++. What are more subjects? Operating systems. They ask you questions from that as well. And there is one subject, software engineering. They ask you about software development models. So we follow agile scrum process on our side. So I remember in Infosys they asked me about agile scrum and all of that. So theoretically you have to be strong, but not that strong. Like you should be able to speak about technical subjects, not in depth, but at least on a superficial level. So if you're a good student, if you have like 8 points and above, if you are mugging up a day before exam, I'm sure you'll remember a little bit from those waterfall model. You'll be able to tell, right? CPM, CD, communication, modeling, planning, development, the phases. So you should be able to explain confidently. You don't need to know who developed it, when it was developed. You don't have to know it in depth. You just have to know all the subject on a superficial level. Just revise some of these subjects, and you will find interview questions, I'm sure, on Google, a lot of them, these theoretical concepts. um, um, what was the next question? Data structures, right? I think there is no way, there is no cheat sheet for data structures. You have to sit and study, inserting a node into a linked list, removing a node from the linked list, finding the loop in the circular linked list. All of these questions are asked, and I think the only answer to this is sit and study from your notes. I'm grateful that I had a good lecturer for data structures, so I had good notes. I could sit and study. But I'm not sure about you guys, if you haven't you have sat in those classes and made notes. Still, there are a lot of resources online. Just go on YouTube, also a lot of people teaching. I think, I'm sure you could tackle those. And if you're not comfortable with any of the data structures, like if you have like alpha, beta, um, this red black trees, all of those, if it's going above your head, don't mention it to your interviewer. Don't let them know that that is your weak point. Like even when you're speaking your intros or anything, don't mention that subject that you are scared of. Okay. Next question. I will answer a few more and then we'll call it a day.
Sure. So we've sort of covered most of the questions that they've been answering while you were talking. But taking a few questions from what they've sent in through the form, there is a question about how did you manage your time and what was your
Your
intention
voice
behind
is
all of this?
breaking, Rida.
So
Can you
okay,
repeat yourself? Yeah.
yeah. So the question is about what your inspiration is and how
Mhm.
did you manage your time accordingly?
Inspiration. I don't know. I look up to a lot of people. I think my family has been my biggest support. My brother, my sister, my mother. I think they have been motivating me to do what I want to do. But if you want to like look up to people, actually, then it has to be from the people. It has to be from the industry. Elon Musk, obviously. Like if you are being in the industry, obviously, if you are in political sciences, you look up to people who are involved there, right? So if you are in the corporate world, you look up to the big companies. You look up to Mark Zuckerberg. You look up to Elon Musk. So Jack Ma. There are a lot of people actually. You can go and listen to these people any day if you're feeling not productive, or you're not feeling uh, yourself. You look up to them, you listen to their stories. I think I do that, and I get a lot of motivation from there. You can watch videos on YouTube. They give a lot of motivational speeches, and their stories, they start from the bottom. They are so grounded, and they have reached the utmost top in their life. So I think they are very inspirational. You should actually have idols in your life to get on track whenever you are lost. Okay, I'll just pick up one more question. If anybody wants to talk, you can just unmute yourself maybe and speak. Um, Adish, I'm motivated to sit for a placements again. Okay, I had actually collected a few statements from my colleagues. Colleague, not colleagues, but people who got placed in college. And Adish was the one who said that, how was your transition from student life to corporate life? And he said, good to do something that makes sense. One of my friends said, it's easy for me and I'm able to do better than I used to do in college. And another friend said, it's overwhelming, it's hectic, yet it's creative and it's fun. There were a lot of mixed reviews and reactions. You are gonna be happy at the end of the day. I won't say that you won't struggle. It's not going to be hectic, but once you're done with your education, entering the corporate world, I think it's the biggest transition of your life, and it's like nothing else. The experience is amazing. It's overwhelming. It's happy. It's a mix of emotions. It's a roller coaster ride. I think that's the right word. Okay.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Shazmi.
The technical concepts, how did you plan them before interview, like 7 days or 3 days before
Okay.
the
I
interview?
planned a night before. I can answer this actually. So if you are technically weak, I would say there are a lot of platforms to learn. As I mentioned, obviously we all know of it, and there is no cheat. Actually, there is. I use these cheat sheets. You just have to put JavaScript, and write cheat sheet or cheat code on Google, and you will find these PDFs, modules, I can say, and ebooks. They summarize the programming language into a few pages. So what they do is they put all the syntaxes, semantics, everything that you need to know about that programming language, and then few example, codes or something at the bottom. So that entire programming language with all its syntaxes, their loops, their data types, um, their data structures, everything, the libraries, the packages, everything is uh, summarized in a very short and a brief form. Like, I remember Java cheat codes are very nice. Java cheat sheet, just go and Google this Java cheat sheet, and you can do this obviously before any placement. One night before placement, sit for like 3 to 4 hours and study the entire cheat sheet from top to bottom. It will help you refresh the subjects. I'm not telling study from here. This is a refreshment for you. Like, if you've forgotten a programming language, if you've forgotten the syntaxes, just go and do this. And I think if you're scared for your technical rounds, the best thing to do a day or a few days before exam is uh, revising, obviously, and sit and revise the programs that are very basic. Okay, so you need to know your palindromes, you need to know your searching, all types, linear, all the sortings, linear search, binary search, all sorts of sorts. And obviously data structures is very important. DBMS is so damn important. Like, companies get impressed when you start talking about DBMS. Infosys and Deloitte, they asked me a lot of queries. So there might be complex queries. They ask you about keys as well, joins, and there were a lot of complex joins. This employee and department table is so damn important from placement point of view. So when you are preparing only a few days before exam, I think these cheat sheets will help you revise the concepts and go for very basic concepts. That's how, even if they give you a complex problem, you will be able to build in that. So if you're doing this small programs, arrays, reversing the array, and sorting the arrays, just revise very basic things. I'm sure you'll be able to tackle the programming problem statement given to you during the interview.
Hello, I have one question.
Yes.
Has anyone from our college has got a job in machine learning
Machine learning.
or like data science? I mean, these are the trending terms now. So has
Okay.
anyone got a placement in it? Because many people are giving, I mean, unpaid internships in the name of these terms. Can you please elaborate?
Okay. I have heard a lot about fake placements, but thank God I have not been a victim of it. Just be aware of the walk-ins and every all these things, the details that you provide. And actually, there are certain not one placement I wrote where they took money from me. Okay, so if you are giving money in the hope of getting a job, I don't think they are fake. If somebody is asking you money, that's fake. And when you talk about these big terms, right? Big data science was a thing when I was in third fourth year. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, people sorry, people attract you with these big words. It's not that easy to get jobs in these roles. Okay, cloud computing, Azure DevOps, there is a list of these words that I can keep talking about. But getting a job over here, at least from what experience I have in Deloitte right now, like a few months of internship and then as a FTE, I can tell you that you develop these skills uh, by experience. You learn these skills over time, you get them. As a fresher, you might be able to do certain courses, and I don't think any company okay, they will come to you saying that we have job opportunities in this domain and you should know this, there will be pointers for it. But as a fresher, they don't expect you to have immense knowledge in that field, so they will train you. But just be aware of these fraudsters. Machine learning, I'm not sure, I haven't had any friends who have told me that they have got into machine learning, but I know a few who got into data science after doing few courses. Anybody else, or do we end the talk? It's been like more than 1 hour.
Yeah, we've gone way
Exceeded
ahead.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
then it was lovely to listen to what you were saying, and I'm sure it was very helpful to everybody who was asking those questions. If anybody has any further questions, they can send it to me later on, and I will try to convey them to Juveria and try to help you guys if you're interested. And I think we should end the session now. So thank you so much, Juveria, for
Yeah.
taking time out first of all, and secondly, spending so much time with us, more than we
Yeah.
expected.
It's
So
a
it
weekend and it was an honor to talk to you guys. I'm a very talkative person. Sorry for extending the time, but I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. And I didn't target anybody as such. And it was only for fun and jokes in between. Uh, have a good career. All the best, everybody. And thank you, Dida, for the opportunity.
No problem at all. It was lovely having you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll be ending the session now, guys. You can leave. Thank you so much.